Hi, I'm Brian Hatcher with my 5 tips on how to get the most out of your morning pages. Now, if you've never heard of morning pages before, this was something that was introduced in The Artist Way, written by Julia Cameron. The concept itself is pretty simple, really. What you do is, when you wake up in the morning, before you do anything else, you grab your notebook and something to write with, and then you write 3 pages of stream of consciousness. Whatever pops into your head, you write it down on the paper until you fill up 3 pages, and then you're done. And you might be thinking to yourself right now,
Okay, why would you want to do that?
But after you've started doing them for a while, you'll soon discover that morning pages can be therapeutic and helpful and help you realize things you'd never really thought about before. And when I started doing morning pages back in the 1st of October of last year, I really got to say that morning pages have been a huge help to me, and I've learned a lot from doing them. In The Artist Way, Julia Cameron says that there's really no wrong way to do morning pages, and I have to agree with that. But I have noticed there are certain things that you can do that'll make your morning pages more effective. And so here are my top 5 tips on getting the most out of your morning pages. Tip number 1. In The Artist Way, Julia Cameron suggests that you should write out your morning pages by hand. And as much as I hate to say it, I'm afraid I got to agree with her. Believe me, no one fought against this more than I did. I mean, I haven't written cursive since college, and any handwriting I ever did was just printed, whether it was like a little note or a form I had to fill out. But besides that, everything that I've done writing-wise has been on a keyboard on a computer. I mean, what's the point of handwriting everything? It's just so much faster to do it on the computer. And yeah, that's absolutely true, but by handwriting your morning pages and being forced to slow down gives you a major advantage. Because you have to slow down a little bit and you can't put your words down as quickly, you're forced to think about them a little bit more. And so your writing becomes really more productive. And the actual 3 pages is important, and so that 8.5 by 11 notebook that you're supposed to use is really the perfect size. Even on a word processor, typed out pages don't add up to as many words. And you might be saying to yourself, okay, fine, if I gotta handwrite it, I'll handwrite it. But there's no point in going out and getting a notebook. I've got one of these really cool electronic notebooks that I can use, or I can write it on my iPad. And yeah, these notebooks are really awesome, and I love using mine. It's very portable and really very convenient. But I'm going to suggest that you don't use an electronic notebook for a couple of reasons. The first is that the pages don't really quite measure up to 8.5 by 11, so you don't have as much room to write as you would in a notebook. The second is, even though you can put years worth of notebooks in this electronic device, you don't really get that feel of the amount of work that you've done. You're just looking at a bunch of files, and the notebook never really gets any thicker than this. This was the first notebook that I used to do my morning pages. It's a 5-subject notebook that I cut out all the folders and just started writing. And within a couple of months, I've completely filled it up. But the great part of having a notebook like this is that I can actually see the amount of work that I put into it. And emotionally and mentally, that helps me. It makes me feel like I've accomplished something in a way that seeing a list of file names just won't do for you. So yeah, as much as it kills me to say it, you're better off with a notebook and your favorite pen. Tip number 2. Do not go into your morning pages with a bunch of expectations. When you pull out your notebook and your pen and you're getting ready to do your morning pages, it can feel sometimes like you're back in high school getting ready to write an essay for the teacher. And sure, an essay does need to have a subject, and so it's really tempting when you're getting ready to do your morning pages to try to figure out what it is you want to start writing about. And yes, sometimes when you have a mental or an emotional or spiritual problem, it can help to crack open the morning pages and start writing about it, thinking about it, and seeing if you can come up with an answer. But in fact, morning pages were meant to be stream of consciousness. So not only is coming up with a subject not necessary, it's really not what you're trying to do when you're writing. In fact, it's when you start writing your morning pages with absolutely no idea what you're going to write whatsoever that some really miraculous things can happen. I can't tell you how many times I've started writing my morning pages with absolutely no idea what I was going to write about, and I just kind of let my thoughts drift as I wrote. And suddenly, I started to see patterns develop, and I started writing about something that I hadn't really been thinking about. I started to explore it, and then suddenly a real legitimate epiphany struck me. I found myself thinking about something that I hadn't thought of for years, or realizing a problem that had escaped my notice. And that is where morning pages become really useful. It allows you to explore parts of your consciousness and your subconsciousness that you hadn't really thought about before, and some real healing can happen when you do that. So when you're starting your morning pages, don't worry about the fact that you don't know what you're going to write about. Trust me, once you start writing, something's going to come up. Tip number 3, do not censor yourself in your morning pages. Whenever you start writing stream of consciousness, sometimes things will come up that are embarrassing or sometimes even uncomfortable. When you start writing it, suddenly you feel yourself pulling back going,
I can't write about that. What would happen if somebody were to read that?
But the things you write in your morning pages aren't meant for other people to read. In fact, you're seldom going to go back and read them yourself. But one of the strengths of morning pages is it allows you to confront certain things about yourself and your past that maybe you're not all that comfortable with. By actually confronting them, it allows you to think about these things and come up with solutions and actually heal. And so when you're writing your morning pages, it's usually the best idea to let whatever comes out come out. But of course, if you start having intrusive thoughts or really bad ideas about harming yourself or other people, then of course you should seek out help. But dealing with uncomfortable things and overcoming them is one of the great strengths of doing morning pages. Tip number 4. If you're new to morning pages and you've never read The Artist Way before, I feel like the best thing that you can do is to do your morning pages in conjunction to reading through The Artist Way. The purpose of The Artist Way was to help artists that were stuck to get their creativity flowing again. And it was in that book that I first learned the secrets of morning pages. And I feel like if you're new to writing morning pages, that there's a lot of stuff in The Artist Way that are going to help you get the most out of them. And going through the 12-week program that's in The Artist Way will not only inspire you in creating art, but it'll also give you a lot to think about and a lot of stuff to write in your morning pages. But the main reason I always suggest that people read The Artist Way, morning pages is just one tool that Julia Cameron gives you in the book. There are a lot of great things you're going to learn in that book besides how to do morning pages, like the artist's date, which is a really useful tool if you're trying to get unstuck as an artist. So I feel like if you're getting started in morning pages, reading The Artist's Way will give you a great foundation so that you get the most out of doing them. And tip number 5, you should start doing your morning pages as soon as possible. You shouldn't wait for a New Year's resolution or the first of the month or even the first of the week to start doing your morning pages. In fact, if because of tip 4 you decide you want to order a copy of The Artist's Way, you shouldn't even wait for the book to come in before you start doing your morning pages. Because the sooner you start doing your morning pages, the sooner you can start reaping the benefits. And all you really need to get started is a notebook and your favorite writing instrument. So I hope those tips are helpful for you, and I really do hope that you get started on morning pages as soon as you can. If you have any questions about morning pages, leave them in the comments below and I'll be glad to answer them for you. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.